Overthinking is a silent struggle that many people face, often unnoticed by others, but profoundly impactful on those who experience it. It's a habit of the mind that transforms simple thoughts into complex webs of doubt, fear, and indecision. Overthinkers are not just caught in a loop of excessive thought. They are often burdened by a relentless pursuit of control, perfection, and certainty. This mental overdrive can lead to unnecessary suffering, creating barriers to personal growth, happiness, and fulfillment. One of the primary reasons overthinkers struggle is the constant replaying of scenarios in their minds. They analyze their past actions, dissecting every detail in search of errors or missed opportunities. Instead of learning and moving on, they become stuck in a cycle of self-criticism and regret, which drains their energy and creates a sense of inadequacy. This mental habit shifts their focus away from the present, anchoring them to moments they can no longer change. Another challenge for overthinkers is their tendency to magnify fears. Simple worries become towering anxieties as they imagine every possible negative outcome. What might seem like a minor issue to others transforms into a catastrophic scenario in their minds. Overthinkers often believe that by preparing for the worst they are protecting themselves, but this relentless focus on potential problems only amplifies their stress and prevents them from enjoying the present. Analysis paralysis is another hallmark of overthinking. Overthinkers often find themselves stuck, unable to make decisions because they fear making the wrong choice. They try to account for every variable, weigh every outcome, and seek a perfect solution. However, this search for perfection is an impossible goal, leading to inaction and missed opportunities. The fear of failure becomes so overwhelming that it keeps them from taking even the smallest steps forward. Much of the suffering of overthinkers is rooted in the illusion of control. They believe that if they analyze the situation enough, they can influence or predict the outcome. This creates an exhausting cycle of mental effort aimed at controlling the uncontrollable. Life is inherently uncertain, and the more overthinkers try to control every aspect of it, the more they feel out of control. This creates a sense of frustration and helplessness, leaving them emotionally drained. A lack of self-compassion further compounds the struggles of overthinkers. They often hold themselves to impossibly high standards and are quick to criticize themselves for any perceived failure. This harsh inner dialogue erodes their confidence and reinforces the cycle of overthinking. Instead of offering themselves kindness and understanding, they magnify their flaws and replay their mistakes, creating unnecessary emotional pain. Breaking free from the grip of overthinking requires a shift in mindset. Overthinkers must learn to accept imperfection, embrace uncertainty, and trust in their ability to handle challenges. Cultivating self-compassion is crucial, as it allows them to treat themselves with the same kindness they would extend to a friend. By taking small actions even in the face of uncertainty, they can build confidence and momentum, gradually breaking the cycle of overthinking. The journey to overcoming overthinking is not about silencing the mind, but about transforming how it processes thoughts. It's about letting go of the need for perfection, releasing the illusion of control, and choosing progress over paralysis. Through mindfulness, self-compassion, and a willingness to act despite fear, overthinkers can find freedom from their mental traps and move toward a life of clarity, peace, and fulfillment. Overthinking is a thief of joy, a silent robber that sneaks into our minds and steals away the happiness of the present moment. It's a relentless cycle fueled by worry, doubt, and an insatiable desire to solve every problem, no matter how insignificant. Overthinkers don't simply live their lives, they replay and analyze every word, action, and decision, often seeking perfection in a world that doesn't require it. What they fail to realize is that this constant mental chatter not only exhausts their minds, but also blinds them to the beauty and simplicity of life. Imagine this. A person walks into a room filled with laughter and camaraderie. Most people would soak in the joy, laugh with friends, and enjoy the moment. But for the overthinker, the scene is an entirely different experience. They might analyze the tone of a friend's voice, wonder if a joke was directed at them, or replay an earlier conversation to check if they said something wrong. By the time the evening ends, instead of cherishing the joy, they are burdened by a whirlwind of hypothetical scenarios and self-doubt. What should have been a pleasant memory becomes a source of anxiety. Overthinking steals joy because it makes happiness conditional. For the overthinker, joy is postponed until every worry is resolved, every possibility accounted for, and every decision deemed perfect. But life doesn't work that way. The world isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's an experience to be lived. Perfection is an illusion, and waiting for it only delays the happiness that could be found in imperfection. Joy exists in the messy, unpredictable, and sometimes chaotic moments of life, but overthinkers miss it because they are too busy trying to create a flawless version of it in their minds. Another reason overthinking is so damaging is that it anchors people in the past or propels them into the future, robbing them of the present. The present moment is where life happens, where laughter is shared, where sunsets are watched, and where love is felt. Overthinkers, however, are seldom present. They are either replaying past mistakes, trying to rewrite history in their minds, or projecting fears into the future, worrying about outcomes that may never occur. In doing so, they miss the simple pleasures of the here and now, the warm sunlight on their face, the sound of birds chirping, or the smile of a loved one. It's not just about missing out on joy. Overthinking also amplifies negative emotions. A minor disagreement can spiral into an imagined catastrophe. A simple decision like choosing a restaurant can become a source of stress, with endless pros and cons weighed until the decision itself feels monumental. This mental overload drains emotional energy, leaving overthinkers feeling tired, frustrated, and disconnected from others. Overthinkers also suffer because they often equate their overthinking with care or responsibility. They believe that by overanalyzing situations, they are being thorough or responsible. But in reality, they are creating unnecessary barriers to happiness. True responsibility lies in taking action and moving forward, not in ruminating over every possible outcome. To escape the clutches of overthinking, it's essential to understand that joy isn't found in solving every problem or avoiding every mistake. Joy is found in embracing life as it comes, its ups and downs, its uncertainties, and its imperfections. Overthinkers need to learn to let go of the mental clutter, to allow themselves to experience life without overanalyzing every moment. It's about trusting themselves to handle whatever comes their way and realizing that not every thought deserves attention or analysis. In the end, overthinking doesn't just steal joy, it chains the mind to a constant state of dissatisfaction. But breaking free is possible. By choosing to be present, by letting go of the need for control, and by accepting life's imperfections, overthinkers can reclaim the happiness that has always been within their reach. Joy is not something to be earned through perfect thinking, it's something to be embraced in the simplicity of living. Analysis paralysis, a hallmark of overthinking, is one of the most significant reasons overthinkers find it challenging to move forward in life. The endless loop of analyzing every decision, every possibility, and every consequence creates a mental gridlock that prevents action. Overthinkers often find themselves stuck at the crossroads of choice, unable to commit to a path because they are too busy considering every possible turn and detour. In the quest for certainty and perfection, they end up achieving neither, leaving their goals unfulfilled and their confidence shaken. The root of analysis paralysis lies in the fear of making the wrong decision. Overthinkers tend to view every choice as monumental, assigning it a level of importance that often far exceeds reality. A simple decision like choosing between two job offers or deciding how to approach a personal goal becomes a labyrinth of possibilities. They envision every worst-case scenario, every potential regret, and every unintended consequence. This magnification of choices and outcomes creates overwhelming pressure, leading to a state where they feel unable to choose at all. Ironically, in trying to avoid failure, they fail to act, which often becomes the greatest regret of all. The overthinking also tricks the mind into believing that more analysis will lead to a perfect solution. Overthinkers tell themselves that if they just think a little harder, weigh the options a little more carefully, or gather a bit more information, they will eventually find the right answer. But life doesn't always work that way. Most decisions involve some level of uncertainty, and no amount of thinking can eliminate all the risks. The pursuit of a perfect solution becomes an endless cycle, leaving the overthinker trapped in a state of inaction while time continues to pass. This paralysis doesn't just halt progress, it erodes self-trust. Overthinkers often doubt their ability to make sound decisions, which leads them to second-guess themselves at every turn. They may rely heavily on external validation, seeking advice from friends, family, or colleagues, only to find that the conflicting opinions add to their confusion. Over time, this lack of confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more they doubt their ability to decide, the harder it becomes to make decisions, reinforcing the cycle of overthinking and inaction. Another aspect of analysis paralysis is the way it diminishes the joy of pursuing goals. When every step is overanalyzed, the process becomes exhausting and joyless. Instead of feeling excitement or satisfaction, overthinkers feel burdened and stressed. This takes the fun out of exploring opportunities and achieving milestones. The journey, which should be a source of growth and fulfillment, turns into a tedious exercise in risk management. The consequences of analysis paralysis extend beyond the individual. It can strain relationships, hinder career advancement, and limit personal growth. In relationships, overthinking can lead to miscommunication and misunderstandings as overthinkers dissect every interaction, looking for hidden meanings or potential pitfalls. In careers, it can result in missed opportunities, as the fear of making the wrong move prevents them from taking risks that could lead to success. On a personal level, it stifles growth by keeping them in their comfort zone where they feel safe but unfulfilled. Breaking free from analysis paralysis requires a shift in mindset. Overthinkers must learn to accept that no decision is ever entirely risk-free and that perfection is an illusion. The key is to focus on progress, not perfection. Taking even small, imperfect actions can lead to clarity and momentum. Overthinkers must also cultivate self-trust. understanding that mistakes are a natural part of life and often serve as valuable learning experiences. By embracing uncertainty and recognizing that it's better to make a decision and learn from it than to remain stuck in indecision, they can free themselves from the grip of overthinking. Ultimately, analysis paralysis is a barrier to living fully. It keeps people from chasing their dreams, enjoying their accomplishments, and discovering their potential. By choosing action over endless analysis and trusting themselves to navigate whatever comes their way, overthinkers can overcome this mental trap and unlock a life of progress, fulfillment, and joy. Fear is a natural emotion designed to protect us from danger, but for overthinkers it becomes magnified through their constant mental analysis. Overthinking takes small, manageable concerns and turns them into overwhelming fears. It's like adding fuel to a small flame until it becomes an uncontrollable blaze. What could have been a momentary worry grows into a persistent source of anxiety, all because the overthinkers allowed their thoughts to spiral unchecked. This magnification of fear is one of the primary reasons overthinkers suffer so much, as it creates a cycle that is difficult to break. The problem lies in the mind's tendency to latch onto what-if scenarios. Overthinkers often dwell on every possible negative outcome, regardless of how unlikely it may be. For example, a simple comment from a colleague might lead to a cascade of fears about job security, relationships, or reputation. They might think, what if they're upset with me? What if this leads to a bad review? What if I lose my job? Each thought builds on the last, creating a mountain of fear out of a single, inconsequential moment. This is the mind's way of trying to anticipate and prepare for every possibility, but instead of providing comfort, it amplifies anxiety. Another way overthinking magnifies fear is by replaying past mistakes. Instead of learning from an experience and moving on, overthinkers often replay it repeatedly, dissecting every detail. They analyze what they could have done differently, worry about how others perceive their actions, and fear the long-term consequences of their choices. This constant revisiting of the past not only deepens the fear, but also prevents them from focusing on the present. It's like carrying a heavy backpack filled with every mistake they've ever made, which becomes an unbearable burden over time. The future is another source of magnified fear for overthinkers. They try to predict and control what hasn't happened yet, which is an impossible task. The uncertainty of the future becomes a breeding ground for anxiety. Overthinkers imagine worst-case scenarios, often convincing themselves that these outcomes are not only possible, but probable. For instance, before a big presentation, an overthinker might imagine forgetting their lines, being judged harshly by the audience, or even losing their credibility entirely. These fears, though unlikely, feel very real in the moment, and the emotional toll is immense. The overthinking also leads to a distorted perception of risk. When fears are magnified, even the smallest risks feel insurmountable. A decision that might seem straightforward to others, like starting a new project or having a difficult conversation, feels overwhelming to an overthinker. They focus so much on what could go wrong that they lose sight of what could go right. This fear-driven mindset keeps them stuck in their comfort zone, avoiding challenges and opportunities that could lead to growth and success. The irony is that overthinkers often believe their fears are helping them prepare for the worst, but in reality, they're doing the opposite. By fixating on negative outcomes, they drain their mental energy and undermine their confidence. This constant state of fear weakens their ability to face challenges with clarity and resilience. Instead of feeling prepared, they feel paralyzed, unable to take the steps necessary to move forward. Breaking free from this cycle of magnified fear requires conscious effort. Overthinkers need to recognize when their thoughts are spiraling and learn to question the validity of their fears. Not every worry deserves attention, and not every fear is grounded in reality. Practicing mindfulness can help bring their focus back to the present moment, where fears often lose their power. It's also important for overthinkers to reframe their perspective on mistakes and uncertainty. Instead of fearing them, they can learn to view them as opportunities for growth and discovery. Taking action even in the face of fear is another powerful way to counteract overthinking. Action breaks the cycle of rumination and provides evidence that many fears are unfounded. Each small step forward builds confidence and reduces the grip of fear. Over time, this practice can help overthinkers shift their mindset, replacing fear with trust in their ability to handle life's challenges. Fear magnified by overthinking doesn't have to define a person's life. By challenging their thoughts, embracing uncertainty, and taking decisive action, overthinkers can begin to free themselves from this emotional trap. In doing so, they'll find that many of the fears they once held on to were never as big or insurmountable as they seemed. The illusion of control is a significant contributor to the suffering of overthinkers. At its core, overthinking is often an attempt to control outcomes, to predict every variable, and to avoid uncertainty. Overthinkers convince themselves that if they analyze a situation long enough or account for every possible scenario, they can somehow guarantee a favorable result. But life doesn't operate according to this logic. The world is unpredictable, and no amount of mental effort can change that. In chasing the illusion of control, overthinkers set themselves up for frustration, exhaustion, and disappointment. One of the reasons overthinkers cling so tightly to control is the fear of the unknown. Uncertainty feels threatening, as if it's a void that must be filled with answers or plans. Yet overthinkers often believe that if they can anticipate every potential outcome, they can shield themselves from failure or regret. They try to control not only their own actions, but also the actions of others, the circumstances surrounding a situation, and even events far beyond their influence. This desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable creates immense stress, as they are constantly battling forces they cannot manage. Overthinking also stems from a desire for perfection. Overthinkers often set impossibly high standards for themselves, believing that anything less than perfect is unacceptable. They think, if I just plan enough, if I just think this through one more time, I can get it exactly right. But perfection is an illusion. Life is messy, unpredictable, and full of variables that no one can fully account for. By trying to control every detail, overthinkers only amplify their own frustration, as reality inevitably deviates from their idealized plans. This illusion of control often extends to relationships as well. Overthinkers may replay conversations in their heads, analyzing every word and tone for hidden meanings. They may try to predict how others will react or what they might say in the future, as if anticipating someone else's thoughts can somehow guarantee harmony. In doing so, they not only burden themselves with unnecessary stress, but also miss out on the natural flow and spontaneity of human connections. Relationships thrive on trust, not on constant analysis or attempts to control the narrative. Ironically, the more overthinkers try to control everything, the more out of control they feel. Life is full of surprises, and no amount of planning or overanalyzing can change that. The effort to control everything only highlights how much is truly beyond their grasp. This realization can lead to feelings of helplessness and despair, as they come to see the futility of their efforts. Instead of finding peace, they feel overwhelmed and stuck, caught in a cycle of overthinking and unmet expectations. The illusion of control also robs overthinkers of their ability to adapt. In their quest to control every outcome, they become rigid and resistant to change. When things don't go as planned, which they often don't, overthinkers struggle to adjust. They view deviations from their plans as failures rather than opportunities to learn or grow. This rigidity limits their ability to embrace new opportunities or to see setbacks as stepping stones. The key to overcoming this illusion lies in acceptance. Overthinkers must learn to accept that uncertainty is a natural part of life. Not every question has an answer, not every problem has a solution, and not every outcome can be predicted. Letting go of the need to control everything is liberating. It allows overthinkers to focus on what they can control, their actions, their attitudes, and their responses, rather than obsessing over what they can't. Practicing mindfulness is a powerful tool for breaking free from the illusion of control. By focusing on the present moment, overthinkers can train themselves to let go of worries about the past or future. Mindfulness helps them see that life doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. It teaches them to trust in their ability to handle whatever comes their way without the need to control every detail. Another important step is learning to take action despite uncertainty. Overthinkers often delay decisions, hoping to gather more information or achieve greater clarity. But clarity often comes from action, not from endless analysis. Taking even small steps forward builds confidence and reduces the need for excessive control. It reminds overthinkers that life is not a problem to be solved, but a journey to be experienced. The illusion of control may feel comforting in the moment, but it ultimately leads to suffering. By letting go of this illusion and embracing the unpredictability of life, overthinkers can free themselves from the mental traps that hold them back. In surrendering control, they don't lose power, they gain peace. Life becomes less about managing every variable and more about experiencing each moment with openness and trust. Self-compassion is one of the most powerful antidotes to the suffering caused by overthinking. Yet it is often the very thing overthinkers struggle to embrace. Overthinkers are typically their own harshest critics, holding themselves to impossibly high standards and berating themselves for perceived failures, mistakes, or shortcomings. They demand perfection from themselves and punish themselves when they fall short, creating a cycle of self-doubt and emotional pain. This lack of self-compassion amplifies the stress and anxiety that come with overthinking, making it even harder to break free from the cycle. At the heart of overthinking is a deep fear of not being enough, of not being good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. Overthinkers often believe that if they make a mistake, it reflects poorly on their worth as a person. This leads to an endless replaying of errors in their minds, as if by analyzing them enough, they can erase their flaws or ensure they'll never make a mistake again. But in reality, this harsh self-criticism only deepens their suffering and makes them feel more inadequate. Over time, this internal dialogue erodes their confidence and creates a constant undercurrent of anxiety. Self-compassion, on the other hand, offers a way out of this destructive pattern. It involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a close friend. When a friend makes a mistake, you likely reassure them that it's okay and encourage them to learn from it and move on. But when it comes to yourself, it's easy to fall into a pattern of harsh judgment and self-recrimination. Self-compassion means breaking this habit and replacing it with gentler, more forgiving thoughts. One of the key benefits of self-compassion is that it reduces the fear of failure. Overthinkers often ruminate on decisions or actions because they are terrified of making a mistake. They believe that failing at something will confirm their worst fears about themselves. But self-compassion shifts this perspective. When you know that you will treat yourself with kindness no matter the outcome, the stakes feel lower. Failure is no longer something to fear or avoid at all costs. It becomes a natural part of the learning process. This shift makes it easier to take risks, make decisions, and move forward without getting stuck in overthinking. Self-compassion also helps overthinkers recognize that they are not alone in their struggles. The overthinking often creates a sense of isolation, as if you're the only one who feels this way or faces these challenges. But self-compassion reminds you that imperfection is part of the human experience. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone has fears, and everyone struggles at times. This sense of shared humanity can be incredibly comforting, as it takes away the pressure to be perfect and reminds you that you're not alone. Practicing self-compassion doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook or avoiding accountability. It's not about ignoring your mistakes or refusing to learn from them. Instead, it's about approaching yourself with understanding and patience. It's recognizing that you did the best you could with the information and resources you had at the time. It's about giving yourself permission to be a work in progress rather than expecting yourself to have everything figured out all the time. Breaking free from the cycle of overthinking requires deliberate effort to cultivate self-compassion. This might involve developing a mindfulness practice to become more aware of your thoughts and how you talk to yourself. It might mean writing down your inner dialogue and consciously replacing harsh criticism with more supportive language. It might involve seeking out positive affirmations or even professional support to help reframe deeply ingrained patterns of self-judgment. One of the most powerful aspects of self-compassion is how it empowers you to take action. When you treat yourself with kindness, you create a safe space to make mistakes and grow. This sense of safety reduces the need for endless analysis and second-guessing. You learn to trust yourself more, knowing that even if things don't go perfectly, you'll handle it with grace and resilience. Each small act of self-compassion builds confidence and helps break the grip of overthinking. Ultimately, self-compassion is not just a practice, it's a mindset. It's a way of relating to yourself that acknowledges your inherent worth, regardless of your flaws or missteps. By embracing self-compassion, overthinkers can transform their relationship with themselves and their thoughts. They can let go of the need for perfection, quiet the voice of self-criticism, and find peace in knowing that they are enough just as they are. This shift doesn't just alleviate the suffering caused by overthinking, it creates a foundation for a more joyful, fulfilling life.